Anchorage really does offer a lot to people who are considering moving to Alaska, but unfortunately, there are definitely going to be some reasons why you should consider not moving to Alaska, and today that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. Before we get started though, my name is Jamin Goecker. I'm an associate real estate broker in the state of Alaska. My mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching in real estate, and today we're going to be talking about the reasons why you should not move to Anchorage, Alaska. Now, keep in mind, there's going to be pros and there's going to be cons for everywhere that you move, and these are going to just be the negative aspects of moving here. There's a lot of great things about living in Alaska or living in Anchorage, and these are just going to be some of the more negative aspects that you see. And for a lot of you, these might not even be a factor, so it's just kind of a big whatever and move there, and that's going to be perfectly fine. But the big thing is just that you know all the facts so you can actually make that informed decision, and that's the purpose of this video. You know, one of the big complaints I hear from people who live in Anchorage is that there is an increasing homeless population in Anchorage. And there's going to be certain areas where you can go ahead and be able to see just kind of driving around where there's more or less a higher concentration. But as someone who did live here back in the early 2000s and then, you know, for the past 7 to 8 years or so, I can definitely say that there has been an uptick in the homeless population. And again, you're going to have to just go drive around a little bit to really get a sense as to where that homeless population is more or less concentrated. The next thing that we see is that there's really kind of a soft on crime approach up here, and I know that's not anything that's really particularly unique for Anchorage. I'm compared to the lower 48, but it is something that we have definitely seen up here. Luckily, they did go repeal one of the biggest things that was very light on crime, SB 91, because that essentially created a catch and release system up here for the criminals. And I'm sure, as you know, it does not matter how well our police department does their job in catching the criminals. If we are catching them and then putting them in jail just for them to get out, that does absolutely no good for anybody, and actually just completely takes the spirit out of the police department, because all their work and putting themselves in harm's way just got completely disrespected and thrown out the window because we didn't have the will in our justice system to actually prosecute and make things actually happen to protect the community. And so, yeah, there definitely seems to not be as much of a desire to follow through on justice in Anchorage. And again, I know that's not anything that's particularly unique to Anchorage, but it is something that does deserve being noted. Moving on from the justice system, the homeless population, is the fact that we do in fact have older homes in Anchorage. I did a study a little while ago and showed that the average home in Anchorage was actually closer to about 1980, and the average home built in the Mat-Su Valley was about 2000, maybe 2005 or so. And this really does show that Anchorage as a whole is getting older. Lots here are going to be significantly smaller just because we don't have all the space like they do in the Mat-Su Valley, where it's just incredibly spread out and everyone's got like half an acre, plus out there. In some parts of Anchorage, you're going to be happy if you can have a 0 lot line. So, you know, this is all just something you should be aware of if you're considering Anchorage. Yes, the homes are going to be older, and the lot sizes are also going to be smaller. Last but not least, I would say that the roads in Anchorage do take a little bit longer to actually get plowed. You know, I've lived in Wasilla before, and I can tell you the roads there do tend to get plowed pretty quickly. Exactly why it is that is the case, it's not my place to really say. I've got some theories, but it's not my place to say. Feel free to reach out to me. I'd be more than happy to chat at that point. All right, let's go and take a break real quick and respond to a comment in the comment section I got a little bit ago. And this one's talking about building in Alaska. So this comment says, what if you're building, but you're doing it yourself with a lot of experience, just none in the Alaska area? So I'm assuming this one was talking about the expenses of living in Alaska, and one of the cost savings you might be able to do if you have that experience in your back pocket with building is you could just build your house yourself. And I'm sure that this could be an option. It all comes down to how much experience that you actually have. I people say they have experience. And does that mean you're just working as a subcontractor, or does that mean you have experience as a full-fledged licensed, bonded, and insured contractor in another state who's accustomed to building homes from the ground up? I really couldn't say. At the very least, like even if you do have all those credentials, make sure you partner up with somebody who's licensed, bond, insured up here, and make sure you actually talk shop with them and make sure you fully understand all the codes and the specific environmental challenges that the homes up here in Alaska will put on homes. So that would be my recommendation there. Also, I do host a podcast for those considering moving to Alaska called the Alaskan Journey Podcast. So if you are considering moving to Alaska, do make sure you go check that out. I interview people who've recently moved up here, and that gives you a lot of good tips, tricks, and everything else along the way you'll need in order to make your move as smooth and successful as possible. Now, let's go ahead and finish up today's video. Now, one of the other things that I would mention about moving to Anchorage is that you're going to be able to get to remote places, which I know is kind of the big draw for a lot of people if they're moving to Alaska or even just spending time up here. Hey, I want to go somewhere where hardly anyone has ever been. And that's great. And you can do that from Anchorage. It's just going to be a little bit more challenging is all. So, that's just something to keep in mind. You're really on the well-trodden path when you're living in Anchorage. Another thing, and I know this is going to really sound like I'm really going to come across as being a little whiner here, but the parking in downtown Anchorage really is not awesome, at least in my opinion. Like, it aggravates me every time I go to park down there because there's never enough room, and I feel like I'm constantly getting price gouged on the cost of the parking down there. And of course, everybody always wants you to download their app, and no, we'll protect your data and all that. And it's like, I'm so tired of giving my data to people, my credit card information to just somebody who said that they'll protect my stuff, and that it bugs me every single time. So yeah, I'm definitely going to put that in the con column for Anchorage. Parking in the downtown area of Anchorage can be a little not optimal. We'll just say that, not optimal. Last but not least, one of the downsides of living in Anchorage is that certain areas you can definitely see a much higher incidence of drug use there. So use the crime app. Make sure you are comfortable with whatever area it is that you're moving into. I'm not going to say specifically which areas you're going to have a much higher incidence of drug use and drug-related crimes. That's rude. Also, I don't want to steer you in one area or out of one area based solely off of that. Every town is going to have drug use, but you need to really be paying attention to the crime maps and make sure that you are comfortable with whatever the crimes are and the nature of the crimes being committed in that specific area. And that really can save you a lot of trouble in the future, because I know a lot of people that reach out, they're not really sure what area they want to move to. Maybe they haven't been to Alaska before, or Anchorage specifically, and they're not really sure. They want to ask, is this a good area or is this a bad area? I can't really say, because I'm not allowed to steer you into or out of any area. And the best thing I can say, check out the crime map, and then go a step further. Check out the crime map for where you currently live to give you a baseline idea as to what the crime is probably like living in that specific area. And that usually will give you some good sense as to what the crime rate is in that area, and also what some of the drug usage is like in that area as well. But yeah, no, there are some parts of, sometimes I've gone through Anchorage that you just have someone that's completely tweaking, losing their mind, just walking right across the road. And you kind of have to keep your head on a swivel in some parts of town to make sure you don't accidentally run into somebody. So this has been my video talking about the reasons you should not move to Anchorage. Like I said before, I'm only focusing on the negatives here, and Anchorage has a lot of great things to offer, like the pace of life, easy access to work, the conveniences, being able to fairly quickly get to a lot of the attractions in Alaska that draws a lot of people here without necessarily having to live more remote. So it does have quite a bit to offer. These are just the negatives though, and for all I know, all these things that I've listed out have really been value propositions for you. So hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.